Welcome to the Bark and Bite. This is Brandon Baker from Black Dog Barbecue, and today I've partnered up with Charbroil Grills to cook up these lamb loin chops with a garlic herb compound butter. Let's check it out. Today we're going to be cooking up lamb loin chops, and to me, this is one of the best bites out there. Lamb is just really across the board. Lamb's one of my favorite cuts of meat to cook. It's so rich. Honestly, I kind of compare it to beef, except for it's got an even bolder flavor. So whenever I get my hands on these, it's something I really always enjoy to cook. I will say that lamb does tend to be on the more expensive side, so we tend to get it for our major holidays. But if you actually look at this lamb loin chop here, it looks a lot like a mini T-bone steak, but you got a lot of nice thick meat here with a bone that goes right down the center here. So we're gonna cook these up, and how we're gonna do this today is I'm gonna cook them up on the griddle. We're gonna do these over medium to medium high heat since they are a little bit thicker. Do want to make sure that I take that heat down a little bit so that we don't overcook and burn the top without cooking it all the way through. So that's how we're gonna cook it today. But before we do that, and the reason that I got these out a little bit early here, I'm actually gonna go ahead and salt these up because I wanna make sure that that salt has time to penetrate the meat so we can get some great flavor throughout the entire lamb loin chop. So we're gonna do that first, and then later we'll come back and we'll season this again with a more complex rub. All right, so we've liberally coated the top with salt. I'm gonna flip this over. I wanna make sure that I get all of the meat covered with salt so that it can just continue to penetrate through even more and get some great flavor. All right, so we've got both sides salted. I'm gonna let these sit for about 30 minutes right now so that salt can penetrate in. Then we'll get these on the griddle. All right, so next we're gonna get this compound butter ready. And today I am going to be making a garlic herb compound butter. I think it's gonna go really well with these lamb loin chops. So I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I'm gonna do this, then I'll show you as well. So first thing I wanna point out here is the roasted garlic. Now for the sake of time, I went ahead and roasted this garlic ahead of time, and basically what I did here is I took the garlic, I wrapped it up in aluminum foil, and added a little bit of olive oil, but I cooked that at 375 degrees for about an hour. And what that does is really two things. Number one, it's gonna help get rid of the bitterness that raw garlic does have, and then it's also gonna help to somewhat liquefy the garlic so it's gonna be able to mix better in this compound butter. Now, the other things that I have here, as you would think, we've got our butter, which is softened butter. Had this out at room temperature for several hours to make sure that it's pliable enough to use. That's really important when you're talking about making a compound butter, is making sure that it is softened, or else it's going to be real tough work. Besides that, here I've got some parsley. Just a great herb to add. I had some extra in the fridge, so definitely wanted to throw that in here today, as well as some Parmesan, and then we've got some acidity here with the lemon that we're gonna add. So I'll probably use about half a lemon juice there, just to add that acidity, give a little bit more flavor. Like I always mention, helps to amplify all of these other flavors here, as well as the salt, which we'll be adding, and a little bit of heat with the red pepper flakes. So stay tuned. One thing I forgot to mention with the butter is I did use unsalted butter. I always recommend going that way because when you have salted butter, yes, it does contain salt, obviously, but you don't know how much is in there. So I like to be in control of how much salt is going into whatever it is that I'm making or preparing. And so because of that reason, I go with unsalted butter, and that's what I used here. What I'm about to do is I'm gonna lay some saran wrap down. I'm gonna add this butter to the saran wrap so that we can wrap it up and we can store it. So if we don't use all of it today, I can use it for a later date and time, as long as I do throw that in the fridge. And just a very simple knot. There we go. And that is our compound butter. I'm gonna throw this in the fridge until we're ready to use it and get to work on those lamb loin chops. The lamb loin chops have been sitting for about 30 minutes now, which has given the salt plenty of time to penetrate into the meat with this particular cut. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna finish seasoning these loin chops. I've got a rub that I made here myself. This is going to be primarily pepper, as well as some garlic powder and a minor pinch of salt as well. So we're going to go ahead and season these up and get them ready to throw on the griddle. Just like before, we want to season all the meat liberally. So I'm going to flip these over, season them again, and then I'm going to hit the sides as well. Just to note, there's 3 sides to these lamb loin chops here. So you've really got one side that's thick of meat, you've got a bone side, and then the other is a lot of silver skin that's on the bottom, which I'll show you here. So you're not gonna get a lot of penetration with the seasoning, putting it on the silver skin there. So I'm honestly not too worried about seasoning that part. Just wanna make sure that I do get this side here that is much more meat heavy, seasoned well. So today I'm gonna be cooking up these lamb loin chops on Char-Broil's brand new and redesigned Performance Series 4-burner gas griddle. This is one of my favorite utensils to cook on, or one of my favorite really cookers to use on a daily basis, and it's really my workhorse at the house is a griddle, because of the fact that you can use this for so many different purposes. It heats up extremely quickly. Besides a gas grill, it's going to heat up faster than anything else that you could think of, and really it's going to heat up just as quickly, if not quicker, than a gas grill. So if you're looking for something to cook food on in a hurry, this is it. Other major benefit, as you would think, because you've got that griddle surface on top, you know, you're not using a bunch of pots and pans, you're not getting your kitchen dirty. It's a great thing to cook multiple foods at once. You can easily make an entire meal on this one device. A couple features here with Char-Broil's new griddle. They've got a sear plate over here on the right hand side, which is nice if you're cooking a steak. I might throw the lamb loin chops on there today. We'll see how it goes. But besides that, plenty of storage. You can't see it over here on the bottom left, but basically you've got a spot where you can put a trash can if you want to. If you use a griddle often, you know how many paper towels you're running through. It's a great resource to have. Got plenty of storage. Got hooks as well to put my utensils on that I use on a regular basis, as well as the storage that we've got underneath. So this is a tank of a griddle. All right, so if you just noticed, I turned on these 3 burners, but I left this one off. The reason I did that is all I'm cooking today is these lamb loin chops, so I'm not making any sides or anything else. So I've got some extra space. And with that, I want to make sure I've got a spot that doesn't have a direct heat source coming to it. In case things start to cook too quickly, it's always a best practice just to have that space if you do have it available, just so you can move something to the side if it's cooking a little bit too quickly. So I always have that, or I always use that just as a precaution. We're about to throw the lamb loin chops on and get started. Always make sure to oil up that griddle surface first. All right, so I'm gonna cook these for about 4 or 5 minutes aside. Then we're gonna flip them over, and we're gonna continue to do that until they're cooked through. Also, because the meat is so thick, I'm gonna go ahead and pull the top down, and that's just gonna help hold that moisture, hold that heat inside, so that it can cook more evenly. All right, it's been a little over 4 minutes. We're gonna go ahead and flip these over. All right, it's been another 4 minutes or so, so we're gonna give it another flip and keep cooking. Okay, so we've got a great crust on both sides of the meat here, and at this point, the internal temp is still registering a little over 100 degrees. That being said, I want to get this closer to 135 to that medium rare finish that I personally like. So I'm going to move this over to that indirect heat cooking side where we get the burner turned off so they can cook a little bit more slowly. All right, doing my temp check, and let's see where we're at. This thicker one still got a minute. This guy right here is good to go. It's registered right on 135, so we're going to pull him. You guys are looking beautiful. All right, last one's good to go. Okay, so next comes one of the most important parts of using your griddle, and that's going to be cleaning it at the end. You always want to make sure you do this after every cook. You don't want to just let food residue build up over time, because of the fact that's just going to get caked on there. It's going to get harder to clean, and it's only going to make dirtier food moving forward, and you're going to get a lot of burnt food as well, or burnt remnants of food as well. So I'm going to take a minute, I'm going to clean this off, and we're going to go from there. And basically what I'm going to do is, the first thing, since we've already got this surface hot, I'm going to go ahead and scrape off as much as I can. Then I'm going to apply some water on top. I'm going to scrape all that residue off as well. Then I'm going to take some oil and I'm going to re-season it once we've got all of that food residue off. All right, so we've got this guy nice and cleaned off. Like I mentioned, I'm going to apply that oil. I'm going to rub it in with a paper towel again, and I'm going to let that re-season the griddle. Then we're going to be good to go to turn this guy off and put him away. All right, and we are good to go. All right, so I just took those lamb loin chops off the griddle, and they cooked for about 12 to 15 minutes total before they registered about 135 degrees, which is what I was going for. And now that I've got these pulled off, the only thing else that we're gonna do is we're going to add that compound butter that we prepared earlier to each one of these. As you can see, I've already done it here for this one, so I'm gonna apply it on top. And because I've got it, I'm gonna use a torch to help melt that butter faster. You could always just throw that under the broiler just to speed that process up too. Just use what you have on hand. Or, you know, if you're just pulling these off the grill or griddle and you're just doing it in a hurry and the meat's still hot, you can also just put the butter on top then as well. And that, my friends, is freaking beautiful. Only thing left to do is dive in. Guys, I honestly cannot recommend these enough. This is so rich in flavor, like I mentioned. It's honestly a better beef to me. There's so much flavor. I'll tell you what, if you need a centerpiece for a meal, can't go wrong with these. This is absolutely delicious. This might be one of the best things I've ever made. All right, guys, that wraps up today's video of these lamb loin chops on the griddle with a garlic herb compound butter. If you did like this video, hope you did. Make sure to give us a follow, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for more. Until then, have a good one. We'll see you next time.